Etching is an indirect process. The metal is not grooved with the tool, but with a mordant, ferric chloride or aqua fortis, the obsolete name for nitric acid. A properly degreased copper plate is firstly coated with Namur's varnish, etching ground. This very liquid varnish is applied with the paintbrush. It has good qualities of adhesion to metal and protection against acid. It is left to dry for at least 2 hours away from the dust while protecting it. Once the varnish has dried, talc is evenly applied over the plate so as to check that the fine layer of varnish is perfectly dry. The tracing paper on which the drawing has been previously traced is placed in reverse. Carbon paper is slipped between the tracing paper and the varnished copper plate. The drawing is then meticulously traced on the plate. The pencil lines remain marked on the talc sprinkled on the copper plate. A dry point, a sort of sharp needle, is used to engrave the varnish by following the lines left by the pencil, without necessarily cutting into the metal. The grooves left by the dry point in the varnish will be attacked by the mordant, while the acid-resistant layer of varnish will protect the other unexposed parts. A bath of ferric chloride is prepared and the copper plate is immersed in it, where it will be etched. In this case, ferric chloride with 30 degrees on the Beaumet scale is used at a temperature of 20 degrees Celsius. The biting time is more or less 20 minutes. The bath is constantly stirred and air bubbles are removed with a feather. The bubbles could prevent the acid biting from being evenly applied. Next, any trace of ferric chloride is eliminated by rinsing the plate with water for at least 5 minutes before cleaning it with plenty of white spirit. The mordant then stops its action on the copper. A first state of the engraving is obtained. The operation is started again as many times as you wish in order to obtain more or less deep grooves while protecting the other lines with the varnish. The plate is inked when hot, that is, the copper is previously heated to allow the greasy ink to penetrate to the bottom of the cuts. This operation is carried out using a tool called a dab, or the ink is smeared onto the plate. It is pressed and spread so that the ink enters the grooves left by the acid. Next, the ink is evened out with the roller. The excess ink is then wiped off the surface of the plate, firstly with the tarlatan, then with tissue paper on a cleaner. It is given a final wipe with the nylon. This latter technique is also called pommage. The wiping of the plate is an important stage since it makes it possible to reserve the surfaces which will be the blanks of the print, while avoiding to empty the cuts which mark the lines. Only the grooves of the drawing filled with ink will form the print. Lastly, the plate is centered on the press. A moist paper is placed over it. A layer of felt is set over it all, and then the rollers of the press strongly compress the paper on the copper. The ink strokes are printed in reverse on the moist paper, so revealing the original direction of the drawing. The paper is set to dry flat under press between two tissue papers, referred to as waste sheets.